Now, one fascinating aspect of the forthcoming general election is how voters who are either on the broad left or on the broad right of politics could end up splitting their support with other voters who share similar views. On the right, Conservatives worry that if the Reform Party does well, it'll simply take votes from the Tories and hand seats to Labour. And there's a similar worry on the left. Anti-Tory voters split between Labour, Lib Dems and Greens. Well, in South Devon, there is an intriguing initiative to choose a single parliamentary candidate to go up against the sitting Conservative Member of Parliament. It's called the South Devon Primary. How does it work? Well, the BBC's South West England correspondent Jenny Kumah reports.
Dr Sarah Wollaston is therefore our successful candidate.
In 2009, the Conservatives did something they'd never done before, right here in South Devon. A full open primary, allowing all constituents to select their candidate. GP Sarah Wollaston won and went on to be elected the MP in 2010. Today it's inspired some campaigners who have a very different aim.
So this is our leaflet going out to almost 52,000 addresses from a week on Monday. It explains the process to people. It's a very simple concept. Let's be clever and vote together. And on the back it lists all our town hall events coming up, 7 of them, where people can come along and listen to the candidates, ask questions and then vote on which one they want to unite behind to defeat the Conservatives.
Simon Oldridge is one of the founding members of the South Devon Primary. I meet him in the town of Totnes, where the first of the hustings will happen in early March.
And nobody's being asked to step down. This is a process of the community getting their heads together and making a collective decision with as many people as possible on which candidate is the best one to unite behind. Because without that, we're going to end up with the same result that we've had for 100 years. Of the Conservatives winning thanks to the division between the progressive parties.
If you're not asking anyone to stand down, is there much point in this?
Absolutely. We've seen in by-elections like Tiverton and Honiton that where there's been a kind of tip-off as to which candidate ought to be the one to unite behind, people have been very happy to do that.
Labour came second here in the 2017 general election when Jeremy Corbyn was leader. But a source tells me the party doesn't recognise this primary.
Hi, Caroline.
Hi.
Right, I've come for those leaflets to take to Brixham. How many shall I take?
In contrast, the Liberal Democrat candidate Caroline Bowden is on board. She's been campaigning full-time since giving up her job last year.
There's been a huge amount of work from the organisers of the primary in putting together all these hustings, and that's something that we haven't had the capacity to do so far. So it's great for me to be able to go and set out my stall with the understanding that if I did win the primary, there would be, more people would come on board with my campaign, more volunteers, more door knockers. For the candidate who wins, it will sort of turbocharge their campaigns.
Isn't there like an implicit assumption that between the parties there isn't much difference if you're asking people just to choose one of you to back against the Conservatives?
There are differences between the parties. Part of the primary process will be teasing out those differences, Green and Labour voters maybe putting me through my paces and asking me about things that are important to them to see where I stand on certain issues.
The Greens are backing the primary, even though their candidate, Robert Bagnall, thinks it's an odd concept.
To a degree, it's a slightly absurd situation, but it's as absurd as the electoral system is perverse. So in that respect, it's an appropriate response to first past the post. And yes, we're going to use this as our shop window to convince people that a Green vote is not a wasted vote.
If you lose, what do you do? Where does that leave you?
We carry on as we are.
No, I think it's, as Shakespeare once said, it's much ado about nothing.
That's the Conservative MP for South West Devon, Gary Streeter. The Conservative candidate for South Devon didn't want to discuss the primary.
Those candidates already in place, even if they come second or third at this primary thing, they're still going to campaign vigorously for themselves. I'm certain about that. But there's nothing new in an anti-Conservative coalition. And of course, the people of the left want to get rid of us, but it will be for the voters to decide.
And what do local people think about the primary? At this gastropub in Totnes, it's giving diners plenty of food for thought.
I think it's very Totnes. I'm not surprised to see this sort of thing here. It is generally a place that's quite anti-establishment.
But I guess for me there's probably an element that I don't want to be voting against something, I want to be voting for.
I think it's an amazing idea because it gives people an understanding that actually if we vote together you can have more say and more power.
Will this work though? A question I asked Rob Ford, Professor of Politics at Manchester University.
Most of the voters who vote tactically won't be either contacted or influenced by a campaign like this, but campaigns like this have a long-standing tendency to overclaim their influence, which is, fair enough. As a sort of researcher in this area, I would be very cautious about the sort of scale of the effect that they claim to have. So I think we are going to see lots of Conservative MPs evicted because of tactical voting, but I don't think it's going to be because there were like these big organised initiatives to get people to do that. I think people will figure out how to do that on their own a lot of the time.
Rob Ford ending that package from Jenny Kumah in South